Somewhere right now, someone who should have been behind bars is living free. They wake up, brush their teeth, step outside like everyone else. They blend into crowds, cross busy streets, buy their morning coffee. Maybe they sit beside you on a train. Maybe they pass you in the street. They don't look like killers, but they are. Their faces once filled news reports. Their names were repeated by anchors with quiet disbelief. And then they disappeared. Years have passed. New stories replace the old ones. But some crimes never stop echoing. Some cases never close. Across continents and decades, the list grows. Men and women who killed, confessed, or were seen, and yet somehow never caught. They move through life unseen, their histories buried just deep enough to be forgotten. These are the ones who vanished before justice could reach them. And somewhere among them, there's one story that still keeps detectives awake. A case that began with a confession too horrifying to believe and ended with a disappearance no one can explain. Collins Jumaisi. In western Kenya, the land stretches wide and dry. Red dust, open fields, and quiet towns where people know each other by name. For years, the disappearances were just whispers. Men, women, even children, gone without explanation. People blamed poverty, bad roads, migration. Life simply moved on. Then, in early 2024, a man walked into a police station in Vihiga County and said 5 words that froze the room. "I've killed more than 40. His name was Collins Jumaisi. To his neighbors, he was nothing unusual. A mason who spent his days at quarries, always polite, always quiet. No one imagined what lay behind that calm face. In his statement, he spoke of victims as if he were describing his work, precise, detached. He pointed officers toward abandoned quarry pits, places where the soil never settled right. He knew names, faces, dates. Each one matched a missing person from the area. Investigators followed him from site to site, digging where he told them to dig. And just when the pieces began to fit, he was gone. No alarm, no forced doors, no sign of a struggle. The man who confessed to 42 murders had simply walked away. Days turned into weeks. Search teams combed the countryside, border towns, morgues. Nothing. It was as if the earth had swallowed him whole. Some say he escaped with help. Others think he never acted alone, that he was part of something buried deeper than any quarry pit. Whatever the truth, one fact remains. A man who admitted to killing more than 40 people is still free. And he's not the only one. Because while one killer vanished into the dust, another has been hiding in plain sight, leaving bodies of women across a major city one after another, while the world walks past without ever realizing they're all connected. The Chicago Strangler. Chicago, a city built on noise, traffic, sirens, endless movement. But in the early 2000s, something was happening quietly in its south and west sides. Women were disappearing, and the few who were found were always found the same way. Strangled, abandoned, forgotten. For years, each case was treated as an isolated tragedy, victims of drugs, poverty, the city's darker corners. But there was a pattern hiding in plain sight. By 2019, local journalists started connecting the dots. Over 50 women, most of them black, many from vulnerable communities, all killed under eerily similar circumstances, dumped in empty lots, alleyways, abandoned buildings. Each body told the same story, but no one was listening. The press gave it a name, the Chicago Strangler, but to the families it wasn't a name, it was a wound that never healed. Police struggled to confirm a single suspect. Some cases showed DNA, others didn't. One man was charged for a few murders, but the killings continued. Different neighborhoods, same methods, same silence. It's what makes this story so disturbing. The killer, or killers, weren't ghosts. They moved through the city like everyone else. People might have seen them at a gas station or walking past a convenience store camera without knowing what those hands had done hours earlier. Even now, the death toll stands at 51 confirmed victims, but many believe the real number is higher, much higher. No one knows if it's one man, several working separately, or something even more organized. All that's certain is that the pattern never truly stopped. It only grew quieter. And somewhere in that silence, someone is still out there, breathing, walking, blending in, the way they always have. Because killers like these don't disappear. They wait. But not all of them wait quietly. Some prefer the dark corners of small towns. A flicker of movement caught by a single CCTV camera. A shadow with a knife who vanishes just as quickly as he appears. The Little Rock serial stabber. Little Rock, Arkansas. A quiet city when the sun goes down, until someone started hunting after midnight. It began with a single report. A man stabbed while walking home from a convenience store. Police called it random. A robbery gone wrong, maybe. But then it happened again. And again. Always late at night. Always alone. Always the same kind of victim. A man, walking, unaware of the shadow behind him. Between 2020 and 2021, at least 3 men were murdered and another seriously injured. All in the same area. All by a figure seen only once, on a grainy CCTV recording. The footage is unsettling. A man in dark clothing, moving fast, almost gliding. He turns a corner and disappears. Seconds later, his victim stumbles into view, bleeding, calling for help. Despite the video, no one was ever identified. The FBI joined the case, canvassing the neighborhoods, interviewing witnesses, reviewing hours of footage. Nothing. No fingerprints, no weapon, no name. The killer seemed to appear out of nowhere, and then fade back into it. For the people of Little Rock, those nights still hang heavy. Some locals say they can't walk after dark anymore. Others believe the man never left, that he still lives there, blending in, quiet, waiting for the moment no one's looking. Because this wasn't a spree that ended. It was a shadow that learned how to stay hidden. And just like that, Little Rock joined the list of cities haunted by a ghost with a heartbeat. But while one killer vanished into the dark, another emerged. One who didn't hide in alleys or silence. One who wanted the world to see what he'd done. And beside every body he left behind, he placed the same calling card, a small toy car. The toy car killer. In Mexico, fear often hides behind headlines, kidnappings, cartels, disappearances. But this story didn't start with organized crime. It began with bodies. Men found in alleyways, parking lots and roadside ditches. Each one shot cleanly, execution style. And beside every body, a toy car. At first, police thought it was a message from one of the cartels, but the victims weren't rivals or politicians. They were car thieves, small-time criminals, men with long arrest records and short lives. The press called him El Asesino del Coche de Juguete, the toy car killer, a man, or maybe a group, targeting thieves with surgical precision. Each scene the same, 2 bullets, one to the chest, one to the head, and a toy car carefully placed next to the body. No one saw him, no one heard him, but his message was unmistakable. This is justice. Some called him a vigilante, someone cleaning the streets where the law had failed. Others saw something darker, a serial executioner hiding behind moral disguise. For years the murders appeared, vanished, then returned again, stretching across cities like León, Guadalajara, and Mexico City. No witnesses, no suspects, only the cars, little plastic reminders of a man's twisted sense of order. By 2024, more than a dozen victims were linked by that same signature. Police never confirmed a name, no arrests were made, and the killings stopped as suddenly as they began. But that's the problem with patterns like these. They don't really stop. They just wait for attention to fade until it's safe to begin again. Because the toy car killer wasn't the first man to make his victims vanish into history, and he wouldn't be the last. Not far across the ocean, another story unfolded, one that began inside a quiet French home where an entire family was buried beneath their garden. Xavier Dupont de Ligonnès, Nantes, France, April 2011. Neighbors noticed something strange about the house at 55 Boulevard Schumann. The blinds were closed, mail piled up by the door, and for days, no one had seen the family inside. When police finally entered, the house looked frozen in time. Dishes still on the table, beds neatly made, photos still hanging on the walls. But the family, Xavier, Agnes, and their 4 children, were gone. At first, investigators thought they had taken a sudden trip. Then they found the bodies, 5 of them carefully wrapped in sheets and buried beneath the terrace, Agnes and the couple's 4 children, each one shot with a .22 rifle. The family dog lay buried beside them. Only one person was missing: Xavier Dupont de Ligonnès, the father. Before he vanished, he sent letters to relatives explaining that he had been recruited by American intelligence and would be leaving France for good. He emptied bank accounts, cancelled rent, and left a trail of staged messages designed to buy time. Surveillance footage caught him one last time, walking through a hotel parking lot in the south of France, a small bag over his shoulder, calm, almost peaceful. Then, nothing. No confirmed sightings, no body, no closure. Over the years, theories have multiplied. Some say he took his own life in the mountains nearby. Others believe he escaped to another country, living under a new identity. But with every year that passes, the mystery only deepens. Interpol still lists him as wanted. And somewhere, the image of a polite French father, smiling in family photos, remains one of Europe's most haunting reminders that evil can hide behind the most ordinary faces. But while France was searching for a missing father, another country was dealing with something far more sinister. A stretch of highway where travelers vanish by the dozens and where the desert itself seems to swallow the dead. The highway of death killers. In northern Mexico, there's a stretch of road locals call La Carretera de la Muerte, the highway of death, a place where trucks disappear, buses never reach their stops, and families drive in and simply never come back. It runs for miles through Tamaulipas and Nuevo León, dry, empty land, broken only by the occasional gas station or police checkpoint. But even the police don't stay long. Too many of them have gone missing too. For years, authorities tried to explain the disappearances as cartel kidnappings, human trafficking, mistaken identity. But the numbers never made sense. Entire groups gone, convoys, tour buses, whole families erased without a trace. In 2021, a convoy of 15 vehicles vanished along the stretch between Reynosa and Monterrey. Dozens of people, men, women, children, disappeared in a single day. No ransom calls, no survivors, no remains. The locals know better than to ask questions. At night, truckers refuse to drive that route. Those who say they've seen lights in the desert, headlights that appear in their mirrors, follow them for miles, and then vanish into the dark. Mass graves have been found along that road, shallow pits holding dozens of bodies too decomposed to identify. Police mark them, seal them off, and move on. No one ever finds who's responsible. Because in Tamaulipas, fear isn't loud, it's quiet, efficient. It doesn't need to announce itself. Everyone already knows what happens when you go too far down that road. The killers who control it don't leave calling cards, they leave silence. And while Mexico mourns its lost travelers, another small American town is haunted by its own disappearances. A handful of women who vanished from the same streets, and one shadow that may have taken them all. The Chillicothe Killer. Chillicothe, Ohio. A small town of fewer than 20,000 people, the kind of place where everyone knows someone, and bad news travels faster than sirens. But in 2014, something changed. Women started disappearing. They were friends, mothers, daughters. 6 women in total, all from the same area, all living hard lives marked by addiction or poverty. At first, people thought it was coincidence. Then the bodies started turning up. One woman was found floating in a creek, another dumped by the roadside, the others gone completely. Police called it a series of unrelated cases. Locals didn't believe that. They saw the same pattern forming. The same kind of women, the same area, the same silence. Rumors spread fast. A man in a black truck, someone luring women from motels, a local with connections to the drug trade. But nothing ever stuck. For years, Chillicothe became the center of a nightmare that didn't have a face. The FBI joined the investigation, but no one was ever charged. And as time passed, what little attention the town received slowly faded. Today, the missing women are still missing. Their families still wait for phone calls that never come, and the people who live there still glance over their shoulders when walking alone at night, because they've learned that even in small towns, monsters can hide in plain sight. No one knows if the killer still lives there, if he moved on, or if he's watching the town that once hunted him. But Chillicothe's story isn't unique, because in the United States, dozens of deaths share the same pattern. College-aged men, nights out, bodies found in water, and a strange symbol that keeps turning up near the scenes. The smiley face killer's theory. It began as a theory, a whisper among detectives who refused to believe coincidence could explain everything. From Wisconsin to New York, Minnesota to Ohio, the same story repeated itself for decades. A young man goes out drinking with friends. He disappears on his way home. Days later, his body is found in a river. Police reports called them accidents, drunken drownings, wrong place, wrong time. But retired New York detectives Kevin Gannon and Anthony Duarte saw something else, something deliberate. They noticed the same strange details across dozens of cases. The missing men were all college-aged, athletic, good students, and their bodies were found miles from where they vanished. Often, the locations had one more thing in common: a spray-painted smiley face somewhere nearby. At first, no one took the theory seriously. It sounded like urban legend material, too vague, too far-fetched. But as more drownings surfaced with the same eerie marks and timing, the theory refused to die. More than 40 deaths across 11 states, all unsolved, all eerily similar. The FBI dismissed the idea of a nationwide killer or network. Statistically, they said, it didn't fit. But families of the victims weren't convinced. Too many questions, too many patterns, too many smiles on walls near where their sons were found. Even now, no one can say for sure if the smiley faces are coincidence, copycats, or calling cards. What's certain is that the deaths continue, quiet, scattered, unlinked by official reports, but tied together by fear. Because sometimes evil doesn't need to be proven to be real, it just needs to keep happening. And while these drownings haunted the rivers of the US thousands of miles south, another killer stalked a very different kind of victim, one who chose his targets not by chance, but by who they loved. The Rainbow Maniac, São Paulo, Brazil. A city alive with music, color, and movement. But at night, in the quiet stretch of Paturis Park, something darker lurked. Between 2007 and 2008, 13 men were found murdered there, each shot in almost the same way, each belonging to the same community. They were gay men, attacked while meeting others in the park after dark. The killer struck fast. One bullet, always to the head. The press named him O Maníaco do Arco-Íris, the Rainbow Maniac. For months, fear spread through São Paulo's LGBTQ+ community. Friends stopped going out. People whispered about an executioner hunting in the shadows, but the attacks didn't stop. Eventually, police arrested a retired police sergeant, suspected after witnesses claimed to have seen him near the scene of one of the killings. He was charged with one murder, then released. The case dissolved into uncertainty, and the murders stopped. Or maybe the killer just changed where he hunted. To this day, no one has been convicted. Families never received answers, only silence, the kind that feels heavier than grief. What makes the case unforgettable isn't only the violence, it's what it revealed. That hate can wear a badge, and that even in a city of millions, a single gun can erase lives without anyone ever seeing the face behind it. But while the Rainbow Maniac faded into rumor and fear, another killer kept moving. Not in parks or alleys, but along the long stretch of interstate running through the heart of America. A man who has stalked the same highway for over 30 years, and who may still be out there watching for his next victim. The I-70 killer. The I-70 highway cuts straight through the middle of America, from Baltimore to Utah, more than 2,000 miles of endless asphalt. For most drivers, it's just another road. For investigators, it's something else entirely. A hunting ground. Between 1992 and 1994, a string of murders shocked the Midwest. 6 store clerks, all young women, all killed with the same small-caliber weapon. Different states, same method, same quiet precision. Each victim was found in a small shop near the interstate. Bridal stores, boutiques, shoe shops. Robbery was never the motive. The cash registers were left untouched. The killer walked in, fired a single shot to the back of the head, and vanished before anyone could react. Witnesses described him as a man in his 20s or 30s, light-haired, lean, calm. He spoke little, if at all. Sometimes he'd linger just long enough to lock eyes with someone, long enough to make sure they remembered the fear. Then, after 1994, the killings stopped. For years, police assumed he was dead or in prison under another name. But in 2021, another case surfaced in Indiana. A woman killed inside a store in the exact same way, with the same rare shell casing found beside her body. DNA couldn't confirm it, but the method was identical, the handwriting of a ghost who refuses to stay buried. The I-70 killer had returned. Or maybe he never left. To this day, no one knows his name, his face, or where he'll strike next. Every driver passing a lonely shop near that highway could be looking straight at him and never know it. Because the most dangerous kind of killer isn't the one who hides. It's the one who blends into the noise of everyday life. Quiet, ordinary, patient. And while the I-70 killer still haunts the interstate, another name keeps resurfacing across Europe. A fugitive whose face has been on wanted posters for over 30 years and whose escape remains one of Spain's darkest mysteries. Antonio Angles, Spain, 1992. 3 teenage girls, Miriam, Tony, and Desiree, left their homes in Alcázar, a small town near Valencia, to go to a nightclub. They never came back. For 75 days, their faces were everywhere. Newspapers, posters, TV broadcasts. Parents begged for answers. Police searched fields, highways, and rivers. Then, in January 1993, the search ended. A farmer found their bodies buried in a shallow grave. What investigators uncovered next would horrify the country. The girls had been kidnapped, tortured, and murdered. The brutality was beyond words. Spain had never seen anything like it. 2 men were linked to the case, Miguel Ricard and Antonio Angles. Ricard was caught. Angles wasn't. When police raided his home, he was already gone. Over the next weeks, a manhunt spread across the country. Sightings poured in from Portugal, France, even Ireland. Angles seemed to vanish just as the walls were closing in. Authorities believe he boarded a ship bound for Brazil, hiding inside a container. Some say he died there, trapped without food or air. Others believe he escaped at sea and disappeared into a new life. For decades, his name has lingered like a curse, whispered on crime shows, online forums, police bulletins. Interpol still lists him as one of Europe's most wanted fugitives. Every few years, a new photo circulates. A man spotted in South America, another in the UK, but none ever confirmed. And after 30 years, the question remains the same. Did Antonio Angles die trying to escape justice? Or has he been walking among us ever since? Because sometimes the most chilling part of a story isn't what was done. It's knowing the man who did it might still be out there, alive, unpunished, and free. And just across the Atlantic, another mystery lies buried. 11 women found in the desert outside Albuquerque, their bones uncovered by the wind, their killer never found. The West Mesa Bone Collector, Albuquerque, New Mexico. A desert city where the horizon stretches forever, quiet, open, endless. But in 2009, something surfaced that shattered that calm. A woman walking her dog on the west side of town noticed something strange in the dirt, a piece of human bone. At first, police thought it was isolated. Then they kept digging. 1 body became 2, 2 became 11, all women, all missing for years. The remains were scattered across a patch of desert now known as the West Mesa. Police worked for months, carefully excavating what had become a mass grave, one of the largest serial murder sites in American history. The victims had one thing in common. Most were young women involved in sex work or struggling with addiction, women who could vanish without many people asking questions. Detectives pieced together timelines, phone records, and possible links. They identified a few potential suspects: a local landscaper, a boyfriend of one of the victims, even a man who later died in a police shootout. But no one was ever charged. The case went cold and the killer earned a name whispered with dread: the West Mesa Bone Collector. To this day, no one knows who buried those women in the desert or how long they had been there. All that remains are crosses in the sand, names carved into stone, and families who never got the answers they were promised. The desert eventually covered the graves again. The city grew closer. New homes now stand where the bodies once lay. But under the surface, that land still carries a secret, a reminder that the past doesn't disappear, it just waits to be uncovered again. And far from New Mexico, across the ocean, another name still lingers from a different time. A killer who stalked nightclubs in 1960s Scotland, dancing with his victims before leading them into the dark. Bible John, Glasgow, Scotland, the late 1960s, a city of smoky pubs, dance halls, and music that poured out into the streets on Saturday nights. But somewhere inside that rhythm, a predator was watching. Between 1968 and 1969, 3 women were found murdered after nights out at the same ballroom, the Barrowland. Each had been beaten and strangled. Each had last been seen leaving with the same man. Witnesses described him as tall, well-dressed, polite, dark hair, sharp features, around 25 years old. He quoted scripture, spoke softly about sin, temptation, and morality. They started calling him Bible John. The name spread through the papers. Women were warned not to go dancing alone. Detectives flooded the city, interviewing thousands. But Bible John was always one step ahead, or maybe he was never there to begin with. The killings stopped as suddenly as they began. The trail went cold, and Bible John became one of Scotland's most enduring legends, a phantom built from fear, rumor, and half-remembered faces under dim nightclub lights. Over the years, theories multiplied. Some believed he was a preacher's son. Others claimed he had joined the army or died soon after the murders. One theory suggested he was another serial killer entirely, a man named Peter Tobin, who was later convicted of multiple murders, but no DNA ever proved it. More than 50 years later, the case still haunts Glasgow. The idea that a man could walk women out of a crowded dance hall, hide 3 times, and vanish without a trace still chills the city's memory. And as Bible John disappeared into history, another phantom was emerging in the United States. A killer who targeted children and teenagers, taunted police with handwritten notes, and left behind a name that would define fear in Washington, D.C. The Freeway Phantom, Washington, D.C., early 1970s. The capital of the United States, polished on the surface, fractured underneath. Protests, politics, poverty, and fear were all part of daily life. And in the middle of it all, someone began hunting little girls. Between 1971 and 1972, 6 young black girls, aged between 10 and 18, were abducted, assaulted, and murdered. Their bodies were found along highways and wooded areas surrounding the city, dumped like afterthoughts beside the very roads families drove every day. The press called him the Freeway Phantom. His victims all vanished the same way, walking home from errands, from friends' houses, from school. The pattern was chilling: sudden disappearances, short distances, and a killer who always seemed to know when they were alone. When police found the body of one victim, they discovered something that turned the case from horror to nightmare. A note left in her pocket, written in the killer's hand. It read, "This is tantamount to my insensitivity to people, especially women. I will admit the others when you catch me if you can." The handwriting was young, calm, almost smug. The killer was playing with them. For decades, detectives chased every lead: truck drivers, ex-soldiers, even a gang rumored to have ties to the case. Each path ended in nothing. The Freeway Phantom seemed to vanish, leaving only silence and grief in his wake. 6 young lives ended, 6 families left to wonder why, and the man responsible, still unidentified. To this day, the words in that note remain burned into every investigator's memory. A voice from half a century ago, still echoing through cold case files. And while Washington never found its phantom, Another killer was roaming the highways farther north, preying on women the world barely noticed and leaving their bodies beside the roads of Massachusetts. The New Bedford Highway Killer. Massachusetts, late 1980s. Summer heat, small towns, quiet roads stretching toward the coast. It should have been ordinary, but for nearly 2 years those roads became a graveyard. Women started vanishing from New Bedford, a working-class port city just outside Boston. They were mothers, daughters, sisters. Most lived on the edges of society, battling addiction, struggling to survive. Then, one by one, they disappeared. At first, no one connected the dots. But in 1988, the truth began surfacing. Literally. Bodies started turning up along Route 140 and Interstate 195. Shallow graves in the brush. 11 women, all found within a few miles of each other. Some were identified, others never were. The media called him the New Bedford Highway Killer. Police launched one of the largest investigations in the state's history. Hundreds of interviews, thousands of pages of reports, but no arrest. 2 suspects emerged, a fisherman with a violent history and another man known for his connection to several victims. Both died before police could ever bring charges, and with them, the truth likely died too. For the families, time didn't heal anything. The crosses still stand along the highways, weathered by decades of wind and rain. Drivers still pass the spots every day without realizing what happened there, without knowing that each patch of dirt once hid someone's daughter. The case remains open, but in New Bedford, people have stopped waiting for answers. The killer, whoever he was, melted into the noise of the world, just another ghost in a country full of them. And maybe that's the real horror of all these stories, not just the crimes but the silence that follows. Because long after the headlines fade and the detectives retire, the killers who are never caught keep on living, quietly, freely, invisibly. And maybe as you listen to these stories, one of them just walked past you.